Okay, good morning and welcome back to Teal House Farm. Today we are going to can some Salisbury steak and we're going to show you how we do it and you can join us for the journey. We're going to make this completely from scratch. So we're even going to make our own broth to put the steaks in. You can obviously skip the broth step and just use store-bought broth if you want to. You could also can it in water and let the beef make its broth, but the flavor won't be as good. So I do recommend using a beef broth. If you want an in-depth look at making beef broth, I have a link below that's much more step-by-step. We're going to kind of give you a quick overview of how we do it. I'm going to go ahead and get the beef broth started because we're planning to can the steaks somewhere around the next 3 hours. My friend Adrian's coming over. We're going to do it together. So let's go ahead and get the beef broth started. The first step is we need to roast the beef bones and meat and some vegetables in the oven to really bring out that flavor.
First step, get out a large baking pan, and to that we're going to add our soup bones. If you're doing a small batch, you only need one. If you're doing a big batch, you might want 2 or 3. Put them out on the baking sheet, and then we're going to rough cut 2 onions just into quarters. Peel off those peels. They'll burn in the oven when we roast our meat, but we want them to add nice color to our broth later. We're going to add some carrots. You could use whole carrots or baby carrots into the oven on 425, 20 minutes, and then we're going to jostle around those vegetables so they don't stick and flip all the meat over so it roasts on the other side. Into this big pot, we add some frozen celery tops that I had and potato peels that I had in the freezer, and then we add all of our roasted vegetables and meat. We're going to fill it all the way to the top with some water. This is either a 4.5 or a 5-gallon pot, so this is going to make a lot of broth. Next step, we're going to add some hot water to our baking sheet and scrape off all the burned bits. This is the best part. Don't skip this. It gives nice flavor to your final broth. We're going to pour that into our big pot. And then we're going to add our onion peels that we saved and put a lid on it, bring it to a boil, let it simmer about 2 hours.
Okay, Adrian is here and let's show you. Hey, there she is. Ta-da! We're going to show you what we need. This is a pretty simple recipe. Don't need very many things. We have our gallons and gallons of beef broth on the stove. This obviously make way more than we need, but we'll just can the excess and then we'll have beef broth in the pantry. You talking? You need a hat. It's kind of silly. All right, hang on just a second. Hang on just a second. Okay, so we have wide mouth mason jars for the Salisbury steak. We have more of these, obviously, and then some regular ones for the extra beef broth. We have 6 pounds of ground beef. You want to figure about 1 pound per quart jar-ish. That's kind of the ish. We have a large mixing container to make up basically the beef patties into like a loaf before we cut them up. Garlic powder, 4 onions, and you need some non-iodized salt. You can use canning salt or sea salt. It's fine. And that's all you need. Pretty simple. We cannot add thickener for canning, so we're going to make this in the jar without any thickener, and then when you want to eat this, you will drain out the liquid, add a little bit of cornstarch or flour, and then add your beef patties in and heat it up, and then it'll thicken as it warms up to eat. So do not add any flour to the jar. It is not USDA recommended to use any sort of thickener because it can affect canning times and temperatures.
Okay, Adrian is going to take 2 of these onions and she's going to mince them really finely. And then she's going to take the other 2 and she's going to dice them into just nice thin half circles. The finely minced onion are going to go in our beef patties and the other ones are going to go in the jars with the beef patties. While she gets working on that, I'm going to go ahead and put all of the beef into this big mixing container. We are doing 6 pounds of ground beef today. Adding to that, we're going to put in 1 tablespoon of garlic powder and 1 tablespoon of canning salt. You could also use sea salt. And then you need to mix, mix, mix. And watch out for the fumes from those onions. They will definitely get you.
Oh, maybe there's just a distance. I'm not feeling it over here. Oh my. I'm not feeling it. You're now. Oh! Feeling it a little bit.
Okay, it's time to bring in the professionals here. We're gonna get this mixed up really well. Once you think you've got it really well incorporated, you're gonna go ahead and take out another large baking sheet and you're gonna press the meat into the baking sheet until it's about 1 inch thickness. Not all of this is going to fit on one baking sheet. You're probably gonna need to do this a couple times to get it all on there. But once it's pressed in, we're gonna cut it into circles. And these will make our patties. There's no binder in this patty. You can't add eggs, or you're not supposed to. But they actually held together really well when we cooked them. We're using a wide mouth jar to make the patties to make sure that they are the right circumference to fit in the jars once we're ready to can them. I can fit 8 on this cast iron skillet at a time, so we're able to get these cooked up pretty fast. I believe that we made just over 30 patties in all. We cook them 2 to 3 minutes on a side. And then we flip them over. You want them mostly cooked all the way through. If they're a little bit pink in the center, it will finish when you pressure can. You don't need to worry about that. We put the completed patties in a bowl and set them off to the side to get all of our batches done.
All right, those might be ready to come off. I think we're good. So we are frying up all the patties. There's quite a few. I didn't count how many we made. Maybe we will after we're done. But let me show you what we're doing to get ready. So we're gonna finish frying up the rest of the patties. Our beef broth is just simmering now, so we'll need to strain that to get it ready. We have the clean jars in the oven. I had the oven turned on 220 and just turned the oven off, and they're just sitting in the warm oven. You don't need to sterilize jars for pressure canning, but you do need to keep them warm, so that's what we're doing. You could also wash them in a dishwasher if you have a dishwasher, and just leave the dishwasher door closed until you're ready to use them. That'll keep them warm. And then the last thing we need to do is get our pressure canners out. We're going to use 2 of them today, and we're just going to put about 2 to 3 inches of warm water in the bottom of the canner, but we're not going to be able to fit them on the stove until we're done doing all this because there's too much going on.
Hello and welcome to Teal House Farm. It's me, Laura.
Okay, the imposter Laura here is going to go ahead and start filling jars with patties. We put 6 patties in a jar, and that leaves about 2 inches of headspace, which is plenty of room for our onions and our broth. You don't want to pack it so tight that you can't get a good amount of broth in there, because you need that broth to make the gravy when you're ready to eat this final product.
So we filled it to about 2-inch headspace, and then Adrian is adding our sliced onions on top. This is 2 sliced onions, so we're just going to evenly put them in the jars. And then we're going to add the broth on top of that.
We're going to use a wide mouth funnel and a nice strainer just to make sure there aren't any hidden peels left in our beef broth we made. And we're going to fill the jars to 1-inch headspace. Again, these are warm prepared jars. Don't fill a cold jar. You risk cracking a jar and burning yourself. Gonna sprinkle a little bit of white pepper on top and about a half teaspoon of salt. The patties already have a lot of salt in them, so I don't feel like we need a full teaspoon of salt per quart jar. Gonna wipe the rims.
Are you learning all the steps so you can do it next time? You better be watching.
And then into the canner they go. These will need to process for 90 minutes. I wipe up the stovetop too. It's got quite a bit of grease on it. Don't want to cause a grease fire today, but I am going to try to salvage some of the grease from the pan. This stuff is great for frying up potatoes for breakfast. In our other warm prepared jars, we add the rest of our beef broth. This will process for 25 minutes in the other canner. Once the canners have cooled all the way down, you remove the weights, you let it sit for 5 minutes, then go ahead and take off the lids and remove your jars. The beef broth really has a lovely color, and I can't tell you how good the kitchen smells, but let me tell you, it is pretty good. There we go. Everything's ready to go, and we're going to let it cool now.
Okay, we did it. We're all done. We're going to let them sit on the counter for 24 hours. This is for both things. And then we're going to remove the rings and store them that way. Do not store them with the rings on. If you have any that didn't pop or ping, you can put them in the fridge and use them within 5 days. I think all of them are nice and sealed though, so no issues there. Something that might make this a little easier is if you have an outdoor way to cook all those hamburger patties, or if you want to do it in your oven in a broiler. It made quite a mess of my stove, but it smells really good in my house, but it was a greasy, messy cleanup. Next time I think I might try to grill the burgers outside on a propane burner or broil them in the oven to help maybe save my stovetop quite a bit of mess. And to use these, what we'll do is we will melt 3 tablespoons of butter in a pan, and then we will add probably about a tablespoon of cornstarch, or you could do a couple tablespoons of flour to make a roux. And then we will drain in the water, not the water, but the liquid from the jar, mix that in really well, and then dump in the hamburger patties, and then warm that till bubbly. It'll be nice and thick like a gravy, and serve that over some mashed potatoes with maybe some broccoli or some green beans on the side. So it'll be a really easy dinner from the canning pantry. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you all next time.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye, bye, bye.